Hey guys, Sam here from D-Life HD. This is going to be a little bit different today from what we normally will do on the videos. I'm going to be doing a little bit more of an unscripted video, just talking to you about a topic that I find interesting. So, if you're in for just a little bit of a talk, sit back, relax, pop yourself a bag of popcorn, whatever you got to do to get comfy, and let's talk. And the topic at hand today is Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 for the PS1.
Switch it up. Switch it up. I was a worker, had to upgrade to a boss. I had to switch it up. Used to live in the hood, but had to upgrade to a loft. I had to switch it up.
Now, what specifically about those games? Glad you asked. Personally, I just played Resident Evil 1 through 3 for the first time this year. I started at the beginning of the year on January 1st with Resident Evil 1, and then I played 2, and I just finished 3 today. And I loved all of them, especially the second one. I had played the remakes of 1, 2, and 3. I actually really liked the remake of 1. I ended up playing through that about 6 times, getting all the achievements. Really great game. So I was curious to see how the first game compared. And then I had played the remakes of 2 and 3, which I was also very curious to see how those compared, considering they were a lot different in the remakes. Gotta say, I think the originals hold up pretty well. Now, I don't think the original of 1 holds up quite as well as its remake, but there is definitely a reason to play 2 and 3 compared to their remakes, because a lot of content is cut or changed between them and the remake, and the gameplay style is just completely different. Now, it's come to my attention that these games have not been preserved very well in time. Resident Evil 1 saw a remake on the GameCube, followed by a port of 2 and 3 for the PS1, and those were not given any sort of visual, graphical, or gameplay upgrades. For the most part, they were left pretty similar and just ported directly to the GameCube. Since then, we have not seen really a port of them. They're not available on PC. They're not available on any consoles. And it's a shame. I really think those games deserve to be given a new audience. There are so many people who haven't played them, and they are games that I still think are fully deserving of your playtime. Especially a game like Resident Evil 2, which is such a classic. Now, it is easy to see a few reasons why Capcom might hesitate to port them to modern systems. Considering there are remakes of all 3 of them, it could be said that maybe re-releasing the originals would harm the sales of the remakes. But, like I said, those games are a piece of gaming history, they're a piece of Capcom history, and they are so different from the remakes that if you're like me, playing the remake might actually make you want to play the original more, not really less. Or playing the remake or playing the original might make you want to play the remake. Just so either way, I think playing one will make you want to play the other. But they're also just really important to the story, and some of the newer remakes actually miss some of the important story beats that are covered in the originals, so you're gonna want to play them. So, playing 1, 2, and 3 is just so difficult now. Okay, so how do I think they should handle this? 1, you may know of the game Code Veronica X. Now, it's not cited as the perfect re-release, but Code Veronica was originally released on the Sega Dreamcast, but Code Veronica X re-released the game for the PS3 and the Xbox 360, and it was given a fresh coat of paint, widescreen visuals, updated controls, and a little bit of a HD overhaul. Now, it wasn't really remade, it was just given a fresh coat of paint. We've seen this done with a lot of other games, such as the Final Fantasy games. Now, you've seen Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, 10. They've all gotten HD treatments, not full remakes, but HD treatments. And there's one system in particular that I feel like this is extremely important on, and that is the Nintendo Switch. Now, Nintendo Switch has plenty of new games coming out on it, but one thing that I've personally found mine to be the best for is just playing older games on. I really enjoy the back catalog of games from like the 5th, 6th generation of games. So games like N64 titles, GameCube titles, PS2, those kinds of games are really fun to play on there. And a lot of them are given HD treatment and modernized controls and just little things to make them nice. So I've played games like Final Fantasy, Doom, like Doom 3 for instance is another game that got an HD treatment. And old games like that run just fine on the Switch. There's not really any hiccups for the most part compared to other systems. And not only that, but those games are given the advantage of being portable, which is awesome. I've really enjoyed playing through a lot of older games on there portably, and you can play them in HD, and it's just a really good time. So, the reason I feel like re-releasing the original Resident Evil trilogy on the Switch would be such a good move as well is because right now, if you look at the games we have on there, we have Resident Evil 0 and 1 Remake, and those two were GameCube titles. And then we have Resident Evil 4, which is also a GameCube title. And then we have Resident Evil 5, 6, and in Japan, they have a cloud-only Resident Evil 7, so even that one is available. There's also Resident Evil Revelations and Revelations 2, which are both spin-off games, so that's even more added to the collection, but you go from 1 to 4, and so you're missing out on 2 and 3. Now obviously, Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes would be a great addition, but those are not going to run on the Switch, and I don't really see them coming in a cloud form anytime soon, because if they had, I think they would have come much earlier. And so, what would be a good way to branch the gap between Resident Evil 1 and 4? Put the originals on there. There's no doubt that Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 for the PS1 or even the GameCube versions would all run just fine, and they could be given widescreen, they could be given modernized controls so that maybe you have an option to not use the tank controls if you don't want to. They could be given HD treatment, they could be given updated modes perhaps, some of the content could be updated, some of the spelling errors could be fixed, some of the translation could be fixed. There are a lot of areas for improvement, and not only that, but some improvements that came later in, like Resident Evil 3, for instance, having the quick turn, could be added retroactively to 1 and 2. But these games are very important, very, very critical, and if they were only going to do one of them, I would probably go ahead and say, do Resident Evil 2, because 1 remake is available, and if, having remake available for most consoles makes it where Resident Evil 1 is kind of replaced. It's not really necessary to play the original if you've played the remake, but 2 is completely important, and there's no way the remake of 2 would be able to run on the Switch, so having 2 would be so amazing. Now 3 is a pretty good game as well, and so I wouldn't mind 3 being on there. And hey, if you're going to do it, go ahead and port over Code Veronica X, or just do a new skin of Code Veronica, because a lot of people weren't really pleased with the visual updates. So just go ahead and release 1, 2, 3, and Code Veronica if you really want to, and then we'd have the whole collection available. But of course, I'd want them to go ahead and put these out on Steam, Switch, Xbox, PlayStation, just put them all out. I mean, we have all these new systems coming out. It would be great to get some retro titles on them for people to play and enjoy them at all these very crisp, high resolutions that all of these new systems are capable of. I think it would be a really nice update. And of course, they could give the UI updates. They could make it look really nice and clean. But they'd also have to be careful not to change too much. Keep the sound effects the same, keep the music the same. Maybe give us a reworked score, give us the option to change between the original or the rework. Like, do what you gotta do, but just get it out. Make it possible for us to play it. Because really, at this point, it is just such a crime that these games are not available. And there are a lot of games from that generation, not just Resident Evil, but a lot of games that are not available that would be really great to be able to play. And I'd love to see it. And it's just sad that there's no way to play these games, not even on PC. And there's a lot of games I was thinking about that as well, like Tomb Raider is another one. The original Tomb Raider games are almost impossible to play right now unless you have the original hardware. And the PC versions that you can pick up on Steam are not good. They're just not good. They're borderline unplayable because you have to run an emulator. They're just emulated. They're not even reworked. And that's just kind of not cool. So I would really like to see these companies with these legacy titles open up the vault, rework these things a little bit, and even if they didn't give it HD treatment, even if they didn't give it widescreen, just put it on the Switch, just put it on the Xbox, just put it on the PlayStation, just get these games out there because we do want to play them. There's so many people out there that are too young to have experienced these games, and we really want to play them. And for me personally, when I played through Resident Evil 1, I played that using the PlayStation Classic, and then when I played through Resident Evil 2 and 3, I was able to do that using the GameCube versions, but that was a bit of a pain to drag all those things out, plug in all those cables, go on eBay, that's a bit of a pain. Much easier to just put it where we can buy it, give you some money. It's not that hard. And with the upcoming release of Resident Evil 8, Resident Evil Village, how else would be a good way to get people hyped? I mean, people are having a lot of backlash to some of the Resident Evil spin-offs that Capcom has been making to try to hype up Resident Evil Village. So instead of doing that, just release the games where the series started, get people hyped, and then of course people will want to play the new thing. And it doesn't, cost that much to have something ported. Of course it's going to cost probably more than I imagine, but nowhere near the costs of developing a brand new game. And it's not like they'd even have to do that much to advertise it. If these games were ported, trust me, people would advertise it for them. People would be freaking out because these games have been locked away for generations. So anyway, those are just some of my raw thoughts about Resident Evil 1 through 3, as well as many, many other games that are just sort of locked away right now in that awkward, not really super retro, but also not new category. That kind of 6th generation is especially where a lot of those titles are just buried away and forgotten. Just a really sad place to be. So Capcom, get on it. Put these games out. I will buy you. I mean, not you. I'll buy them and I will play them. I will. And a lot of people really thought they were going to announce these at that recent Resident Evil presentation they did, because they were really hyping that up with a bunch of artwork and screenshots from the old games, and a lot of people were suspecting they were going to announce a trilogy, but nope. They didn't. But oh man, okay, before I go, I just thought of something. Imagine this. Imagine if they released all 3 games as a trilogy and you could buy the trilogy, and imagine if it was like the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection kind of thing where you could listen to the soundtracks, but they need to go even above that. They need to make it where you can listen to the music, you can look at concept art, you can watch interviews, you can watch original trailers for it. I mean, hey, Resident Evil has a really big anniversary coming up. This would be a super great way to celebrate, and it would be a great way to get people hyped for the new game. So yeah, those are my raw thoughts on that. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. If you've played any of the games and you love the originals, tell us your favorite moments. Tell us if you'd personally buy a re-release of the original 3 games, and what system you would prefer to play it on, and what kind of improvements you'd like to see made to it. We love talking to you guys about these kinds of things. So yeah, drop it in the comments below. If you are interested in keeping the conversation going with us, we have a Discord server, so you can always jump in there. We'll have a link to that in the description. And of course, be sure and follow us on Twitter, where we like to keep you updated on the latest releases, gameplay, and just our thoughts on the gaming atmosphere and environment. And until next time, guys, I've been Sam, and this is DLifeHD. Remember, always stay one up. Peace out.